Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Swire. You can also call me the promo guy. Today, my guest is Suzanne Tulien from Brand Ascension. She's a brand clarity expert, international speaker, and author. I'm excited to have Suzanne on the show today to teach us about branding and to talk about her latest book titled Personal Brand Clarity: Identify, Define, Align to What You Want to Be Known For. How you doing, Suzanne?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, all. We almost made it. Would you mind to give us a quick bio about what you do and how did you become a branding expert?
Well, what I do is I help companies identify, define, and align themselves to a brand value position so that they walk the talk and deliver on their promise every single day. So they're carving out distinction, consistency, and authenticity through the brand position. I got started I was in the marketing industry, the marketing and graphic design and communications industry. And I realized that as a designer, all I was really doing for my clients was designing a new logo was putting lipstick on the pig, so to speak, right? I wasn't really serving them in a way where they were enhancing their true brand, but actually just putting a new coat of paint on something that was still the same, so to speak, in terms of what the business was really all about. So when I realized that I was doing them a disservice, they were paying me money to do a new design for them when it wasn't actually helping the brand itself elevate in the minds of its market. So I decided that I'm not going to do that anymore until I help them actually identify, define, and align to a particular, unique, distinctive value position. And so that's when I really began to consult and go inside the organization and to help them do that. And I created a process called Brand DNA, which was my very first book, Brand DNA. That's how it all started.
Yeah, since you mentioned that, I strongly agree that people think about branding as just a logo, maybe a pretty artwork that you could slap onto a billboard, for example. So let's back it up a little bit. So what is branding for business?
Yes. So I want your audience to think of a brand as just a set of perceptions. So branding, the actual doing of brand, right? Doing of the branding part is just really the assigning of meaning to whatever that entity brand is.
Okay.
So when we go in and help a company assign meaning to that logo, the logo is just a visual icon. And what it means to people is what the brand is all about, what it represents. So the question is, what does this logo actually represent? And so my work is helping the company identify and define and then align to that construct or that representation of what this logo is going to start meaning now to people, right, who are associated with it, from customers to the community to vendors, anything that the organization is in transaction with, right? So it's as simple as that. It's just a perception. So how do we then take control of what that perception is? Well, we start doing the work, and the work is assigning meaning to what we want it to mean. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it's if you don't think about it, most people just go by thinking branding is just logo to be on business card, maybe logo on a website, and that's about it. But then there's much more to that, and then that brings me to my next question. And I know you have a unique take on that, and please share. It's marketing versus branding. What? Tell us your approach and why do you suggest that people put off on marketing and focus on branding until later?
Oh, it just pains me to see people spend money in marketing when they have yet to fully define the brand they are marketing, right? If they haven't done that yet, the question becomes, what are they marketing? So you market a brand, right? And so if you're out there marketing, spending money and effort and time out there in the media, but you have not yet defined what it is you're marketing in terms of the brand's value position, what makes you different? Why should your customers buy from you? If you haven't defined that yet, you're just chasing the customer in the marketplace with money, right? Instead, if you identify and define your brand foundation and you really are clear on who you are and what value position you hold in your industry, and it gives you that competitive advantage, then you start creating a pull in the market, not a push, but a pull. And so that's the biggest step I see so many companies skip. It's like they're missing piece that they have not yet spent any time on. Number one, because I don't think they know how. They don't have the process to do it, and they don't know where to begin. So they just start throwing money out there in marketing and hoping that it might stick, right?
Yeah. So how do you identify and define branding? Give us some advice here.
Yeah, so the process is in my Brand DNA book, and it's also for the Personal Brand Clarity book, which is right over my shoulder. The whole process is in the book, and I also have an online course. But it's about how do we dissect the attributes of the brand. Do you want me to talk more about the personal brand?
Yeah,
Or
please.
the
Please
business
do.
brand, the personal brand? So if I'm a coach, all the coaches out there, they are the brand of their business. The solopreneurs are the brand of their business, and they already have a brand. If they're in business, they already have a brand. They don't have to go out and get one, right? Because a brand is just a perception, remember. So all of us that are interacting with anybody else, we're gleaning these perceptions. And so the real question is are you in control of the perceptions that are out there about you?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has a brand. The question is, are you in control of it? And if you're not in control of it, it's because you haven't really identified and defined it so that you can stay in control of it in your lane and be super uber consistent about how you show up. So you start burning impressions, certain perceptions in people's minds about, oh, she's the coach who's very ... right? Fill in the blank. And people start knowing you based on your personality, your expertise, your approach. And that's how you differentiate. Because all the other coaches in your industry are going to say they do the same thing you do, right? So the only way you differentiate is through your personality.
But then I think the question will then comes along, with that approach is, I want to be known as a company, right? If we think about personal brand, which they might think that it's small, it's too small. We want to be like a global company. So then how would you advise them, having personal brand and having a business brand, can they coexist?
They can. So let's take a look at the company called Tony Robbins, right? It's everyone wants Tony, but he has a team of people,
Mm-hmm.
right, that are part of the brand of Tony Robbins. He's created this business that's more than just him, but he's really the sole foundational value construct in the business that everybody wants to buy, right? They want him. But on the other side, there's companies out there like retail, boutiques, there's franchise operators, all these other businesses out there that we would brand the company itself, like Baskin & Robbins, that's kind of an old brand. I don't even know if they're around anymore. Or, name a brand like Google, right? Google is not a personal brand. It's a business entity, but they've branded that entity. It's a collective brand that it's got a set of core values. It's got brand style attributes. It knows its differentiators. It has a brand promise and, a brand platform. And everybody within that entity believes in it and operates under that influence of what that set of perceptions is. Does that make sense?
Well, I think, even within a brand itself, you could have different focus. For example, one I could think of come to mind is the Jordan brand. So obviously, Jordan is one of the greatest basketball players out there. People who buy the shoes maybe are also they play basketball, right? But also there are people like me who doesn't really play basketball, but it's nice. I like to wear it. So then the branding is really focused on a couple of different things. The really focused player, and also leisurely you want the luxury, the nice style, maybe the trendiness that it is. So I guess it's really, going back to what you said, is to identify and to define what the branding message behind your brand or your personal brand.
Yeah, so all of those attributes you just mentioned are within the house of his brand, right? So a product isn't necessarily a brand in my book. A product is a sub-brand of the mothership brand. For example, if you're a Mac or Apple lover, right? You just love, you appreciate their innovation, their technology, the way they design things, very creative. Anything that they create from that point on, you're going to trust, you're going to love, because you appreciate that overarching philosophy and value proposition from that mothership company. So all these pieces and parts that they push out there to the consumer are trusted, they're high innovation, they're good quality, they're designed well, those types of things, right? That's what we begin to trust. But they created this brand DNA construct, so to speak, that says that that's what they're all about. And that's their standard of performance that they've set up for themselves. That's how they've carved out that niche in the market space. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, how to do that. So you said that there are three most powerful characteristics of a successful brand. I think we kind of touch on it a little bit. What else should we be, noticed about?
So when you create a brand, see, these characteristics of a successful brand are overlaid on top of the actual set of perceptions that you've created for yourself. So let's just say you have a value construct of transparency, efficiency, and education. You're a brand that has those three value propositions. And then you have style attributes that you could say you're fun and innovative and a little, let's say you have humor. You like to have fun doing what you do. So those two pieces, those two sets of attributes come together. And then you've got the three characteristics that overlay that. So I've got my brand, let's just say that's simplistic, right? I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but we've got the brand of those few attributes I just named. Now we have to be consistent. That's number one. We have to be authentic to these attributes, and we have to be distinctive around making these attributes tangible. So those three pieces are, further along in my book. After you've created your brand, you have to overlay it with getting consistent in being that, being authentic in being that, and being distinctive in being that. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I'm thinking about a recent conversation I've had, with a contact of mine. She knows that she needs to develop a personal brand, both on social media and also in person. But then she didn't, there are type of people, I'll call them introverts, or they are shy for, reason. They didn't want to highlight, like you said, their humor, they may be trustworthy, they're really loyal to their client, but then they didn't really want to point out, and they are kind of like a conserved type of people. So how would you advise, those of us that are like that to, find and define our personal brand?
So I would coach them and say, number one, if these are those attributes that make you different in your space, then you have to make peace with them and leverage them as a superpower and really get confident in that. And if you really want and are ready to be seen, then you'll be more confident in showing up that way. And your consumers, anybody who's in that space, like this gal you're mentioning, she has to be ready to take on the business, to be seen that way, so that she can begin to then attract those people. Otherwise, she won't, and she'll continue to play small and never create that differentiation that is um, resonating with her market. So you can call yourself an introvert, but in being on social media and being in marketing yourself doesn't mean you have to be flamboyant. It
Mhm.
really doesn't mean you have to be loud and crazy and just really controversial. You don't, because that attracts another type of market. That's
Right.
probably not your market, right? So you find a way to then, after you've identified those attributes and that you truly resonate and that are authentic to you, and then begin to roll that out there in a very graceful way. And that will attract those people who get that, who want that, who appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think one of the reason when you haven't gone with the exercise, because I'm sure that you have the same conversation every single day advising client and then going on talk, speaking and engagement, because we tend to have, especially small business owner, we want everything. If I'm a restaurant, I want all the people who eat, which is everyone, right? If I'm a shoemaker, I want everyone to wear shoes, which is again everyone. But then, as we know, you can cater to everyone. Maybe you have a certain attributes, like you said. Maybe I'm more kind, or maybe I'm more aggressive. Maybe I'm more caring. Then there are other people that attracts to abilities. So the question is, why do you think we shouldn't identify everyone as an audience, and how niche do you think and would suggest that we get to be?
That's a great question. And that's the reason why I wrote my ebook called The 6 Myths of Small Business Branding. And one of those myths is no brand is universal, right? So you cannot please everyone, and you'll die trying, believe me, because you won't. And until you give it up, that the fact that you're not going to please everybody, and you start really focusing on that the personality construct and your values, and really begin expressing those and let those begin to attract the perfect clients for you, you're going to die trying, because it's never been done. Not even the top global brands appease everyone. It's just never going to happen. We're too unique. We have too many opinions in our whole culture, and the global culture, and people like what they like and they don't like what they don't like. So until, do yourself a favor, and until you find those key superpowers that you excel in, you're not going to be able to attract those people that get that, want that, and appreciate that. So I would tell you to give it up and focus on that. When you say how much niche do I have to be, I would try to niche as niche as you can possibly get, and then slowly expand as you're finding that that is successful, right? And then slowly inch out, and then slowly inch out. But you're never going to appease everybody, and just give it up is my advice.
Yeah, I like to point out that, with Zoom and how comfortable we are hopping onto virtual meetings, even if you have a niche, if you're weird, if you think you are really focused on what you do, the world is pretty big. There might be people outside of your physical area who are drawn to the exact thing that you think is weird, is niche. So, maybe look outside a little bit more, and there are people, who might be interested in what you have.
Well, you have to trust that there are. You have to. I mean, if you don't, then you're going to stay in that panic mode and want to try to appease everyone. When you're doing that, Swire, you have to understand that you are really doing yourself a disfavor and diluting your own brand so that it means nothing. It's a commodity in the minds of your market. Until you start niching in, like oftentimes I'll say, I help women entrepreneurs who are ready to be seen. They
Mm.
know they have expertise, talent, and a personality to become who or what they want to be known for. So that's pretty niche, right? Women entrepreneurs ready to be seen. And I put that in there for a reason, because I'm not going to sell you on anything. When you're ready to rock and roll and show up, I'm here. I've got the process for you to do that.
Okay, that's important because I now remember a phrase that one of my guests is saying is a proof-fitted client costs a lot more than you think. So you might be able to do whatever that outside of your branding to get maybe other people who purchase your product and services, but they're going to cost you and you might not like that.
Yes, it's that typical 80-20 rule for sure. It's incredible. And we've all had them. We've all had those clients that we had to fire, or that are twice the work, paid the same amount of money, but twice the work as the other ones, right, that are perfect clients. And so it behooves you to dive into what your brand is really all about and who you can attract, because like attracts like. And as soon as you can emerge with that clarity and understanding of knowing who you are and what that package is, you talk differently, you discern differently, so you're making better decisions that are more on brand, and you start attracting those people super easy. It's amazing how it's just like, oh wow, I just sold a $10,000 package in 20 minutes. How did I do that? Like, what? So there's a great phrase, a quote I use in my workshop. It says, marketing might get them in the door, but it's your brand that keeps them coming back.
Yes, agree.
Yes.
So what if listener has been listening that want to take some real actions to identify and define their personal brand? What are some of the tools and suggestions that are available for them?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I'll start with the freebie personal brand Kickstarter toolkit. It's on my website. As soon as they get to my website, they'll see a tab that says Kickstarter toolkit, or they'll see a form at the bottom. They can sign up for that. It's free, and they get lots of tools to kickstart them, and the philosophy behind it, and how they can begin thinking more on brand for themselves. And then the next level up would, of course, be the book Personal Brand Clarity. It's on Amazon by Suzanne Tulien. And then the next level, I would say, would be my online course. Is a 5-module, 14-lesson course that is experiential. It's video. It's me walking you through the whole thing. Downloadable workbook. It's a lot of fun. It's self-directed, so you can do it anytime. At your own pace. And connect with me at the end, and we can get on a Zoom call and talk about what you just experienced, and we can get some action steps going.
Yeah, I can fill out a question that asked me once by a client. Yeah, he's a number guys. So he asked me, so with all the branding stuff that you're talking about, so what's my return on investment? If I spend my time and my money in branding, what kind of return should I expect? So how would you respond to a numbers people like that?
That's a loaded question. You can spend $100,000 in marketing and get 0 ROI because your brand is diluted. It's not clear. People are confused, and confused minds don't buy. When you get super clear and you start talking in messaging in your marketing, very clear benefits, differentiation, values, and results, and how you go about what you do, it will attract the right people who are ready, willing, and able, and appreciate what you have to offer. So if you can just understand that philosophy, I mean, I can't put a number to it because it's so variable in terms of whatever business you have and what you're going after. But you have to also utilize those 3 characteristics we just talked about. When you uncover your brand, you've got to be consistent in your brand, authentic in your brand, and distinctive in your brand. But what is your brand, right? So you got to go back and get that clear.
Yeah, I end up asking him, what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to target? And then he basically answered his own question. So,
right. And so a lot of times I see also with small companies with small staff or employees is that the leadership they believe they know what their brand is, but they're unable to or are negligent in infusing it into the hearts and minds of their employees.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of cognitive dissonance that happens with the leadership and then the employee workers, that they're not on the same page. And customers notice that. They pick up on that. So they know there's some dissonance going on, and they may not know why, but they didn't have a good experience. They may not understand it, but they probably won't go back there because they just didn't get that synergistic resonance feeling that the brand knew what they were doing. They had their systems and processes in place, and that their employees loved what they were doing, right?
That's great, Suzanne. I'll definitely put all the notes and the URL to your website on the show notes here. Want to ask you for your final thoughts. Anything that we didn't cover today, that you think the listener should know about branding, and how to. I do want to encourage them to really think about what you said, and then think about go deeper. Right. Sometimes when you go into branding and how to really showcase yourself or your company, it's kind of scary. And, a lot of us don't like to, show what deep inside are in us.
Well, if you want to be successful or even more successful than you currently are, it's really about assigning meaning to who you are. It's not about the doing as much as it is about the being who you are to build that trust, right? And so I would highly recommend you take a look at the process and do a deep dive, because you're going to have some aha moments that will open up Pandora's box, and you'll get super creative ideas about how you can now articulate and express your competitive advantage, which is you. I always say the solopreneur is their own competitive advantage. And if they're constantly trying to market a product and think that that's their brand, they're wrong, because I can buy that product anywhere. I guarantee you I can buy that or from somebody else, right? I'm buying it because I trust you. I want you. I believe in you. So when I understand who you are and you show up consistently, I want that product, right? So I would just say, it's worth it. If what you're right now isn't getting you where you want to be, you've got to try to dig, like you said, dig deeper and get to that clarity piece. Then everything will start opening up. And I'd also say that I've got a few things. I've got a new YouTube page called Personal Brand Clarity. It's a channel, and they can get some video snippets and vignettes there about personal branding tips and strategies that would be very helpful.
Thank you so much for coming on today on the show, Suzanne. Definitely everyone check out Suzanne's book. It's for sale on Amazon. I'll list all the YouTube channel, Facebook page, and her website on it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Swire. I appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.